And we're going to look at three different kinds. We're going to look at the first one, what the AP polls bracket would look like, what our Austin Mock and his computer model, it's always interesting what that bracket would look like, and Chris's Athletic 134. What would those 12 teams look like? So we'll start with the AP poll. They have Oregon as the number 1 seed, and that would be playing the winner of the 8-9 game. That'd be Tennessee and Indiana. They played in a Gator Bowl a few years back. Shout out to Kalen DeBoer, who was coaching in that game.
Kick was good.
The number 2 seed, Georgia, will play the winner of the 7 seed Penn State, 10 seed Notre Dame. The number 3 seed would go to ACC champion Miami, and they would play the winner of the 6-11 game. That'd be 6 seed Texas hosting 11 seed Alabama. Tide might have some work to do. We'll see about that. And the 4 seed BYU from the Big 12 champions there would wait and play the winner of Ohio State, the 5 seed, and the 12 seed Boise State. Be some spicy games there. Austin Mock's model also has Oregon number 1. They would play the winner of 8 seed Indiana and 9 seed Texas. I'd like to see that game. Pretty much a big-time prove-it game for Indiana. Number 2 seed Miami, the ACC champ. They would play the winner of Penn State and Tennessee. Penn State, the 7 seed. Tennessee, the 10 seed. 3 seed Georgia, the SEC champion, would face the winner of Notre Dame at number 6 and Alabama at number 11. A lot of faith in Alabama from the computers and the voters. And the number 4 seed BYU, again, the Big 12 champion, would play the winner of Ohio State at the 5 seed and Boise State at the 12 seed. Identical there from the AP poll. Chris, what does the Athletic 134 have to say about how the bracket would shake out at right now? Again, this is a snapshot, not a projection, if that makes sense. This is where we stand now, not how things are going to play out.
Yeah, it's similar, but I've got one major change. First off, number 1 seed Oregon against 8 Penn State and 9 Indiana. Those are 3 Big Ten teams who do not play each other this year. Just FYI, that's a problem. Number 2 seed Georgia against Tennessee versus Notre Dame. Tennessee 7, Notre Dame 10. Again, Georgia, Tennessee. Matchup there. Number 3 seed Miami against number 6 Texas or number 11 SMU. Can you imagine that? A Texas SMU playoff game. That would be a lot of fun.
Does SMU have like a lot of hatred for Texas? I feel like it's been SMU's been so bad for so long that that feels like it maybe
but back it's the Southwest Conference game, man.
I know. I love a good Southwest Conference resumption. So shout out to Rice, by the way.
From everybody would come up. Yeah. And lastly, number 4 BYU against either number 5 Ohio State or number 12 Boise State. All 3 of these mocks have OSU versus Boise State as that 5-12. The biggest difference I have, if you notice, I have SMU as my number 11 seed, my last at large, while the others have Alabama in. So we'll see where those teams go. Mm-hmm. I'm not as high on Alabama right now. I'm a believer in SMU based on what we saw and think they deserve it at this point. But a lot of games there, a lot of fun games there, conference games that didn't actually happen because these conferences are too big. So we'll see. I mean, conference championship game, again, is going to completely upend things. We're going to get some upsets in those, and it's going to really shake out. But, yeah, we got the first rankings coming on Tuesday.
And as far as Alabama goes, I think, again, this is where it'll sort itself out. They're a 3-point favorite going to LSU on Saturday night. None of these have LSU in it. Whoever wins that game, if Alabama wins, that's a huge win. I think they would play their way into the bracket when you add that into their resume, and they'll have to play that out. If LSU wins that game, holds court at home, I think they move into a bunch of brackets. It's another quality win, and that really is a playoff eliminator game. There is no road, I think, for a 3-loss LSU or a 3-loss Alabama to get in the bracket. I'll be there. It'll be very fun. So.
And if Ole Miss upsets Georgia, that's going to really shake.
Oh, yeah.
That's another big game next week.
100%. Tuesday night, the rankings are dropping, and we're going to take a peek. Chris, who's going to be the angriest fan base when the commissioner, or the chairman, is sitting in the chair answering some questions from, does Reese do it? I guess Reese does it now. Or is it Fowler? I got to be honest, I get Chris Fowler and Reese Davis confused in my head.
Well, that's because they used to do a lot of the same things.
Yeah. But I know. They seem like the same guy to me. I'm sorry. But anyway.
So we're going to talk here. Fan bases we think will be the most happy and the least happy based on what we get on Tuesday. The chair this year is Ward Manuel, the athletic director at Michigan. So we'll see how he does explaining things. I think the fan base that's going to be the most upset in this first set of rankings is Boise State. And that's because the committee historically does not look favorably upon the group of 5, especially early on. They always rank the group of 5 lower than where they are in the other polls to start. Now, I know Boise State has one loss, last second to the number one team. They beat UNLV. I could see the committee saying, well, they don't have many great wins, so we're going to have them down. Again, we all have them about number 12-ish. That's the other thing. Like, they may be in that top 12 anyway. But I don't think the committee will have them there. I think the committee will have them downer in the teens a little bit.
For me, I think it's going to be Tennessee. You know, we've kind of referenced this a little bit, but Tennessee's resume is not great. And I think they got boosts in the human polls by beating NC State, who has fallen off, by beating Oklahoma, who has fallen off. And you do get boosts for beating top 25 teams in the moment. The committee looks at a much more holistic picture of the season. And when you look at the season, Tennessee has not been dominant for basically since the SEC play started. Oklahoma is the only game that they really looked really impressive in. And Alabama's their only top 25 win. It might be their only top 40 win, depending on how the committee kind of views some of these teams and how those metrics shake out. So I think Tennessee got a bunch of boosts in the human polls. Not to say they shouldn't, but I just think the way that the human polls are done and how the committee operates is very, very different. I think I would not be shocked if Tennessee is outside the top 10, and it'll be because those NC State and Oklahoma wins, they got a lot of credit for them in the moment. They're not going to get credit for them on Saturday because those teams have fallen off so much. Damien, who is your candidate for the fan base that's going to be struggling, going through it on Tuesday night?
Unfortunately, I've got to go with the Alabama fans. And I don't think this is going to be as much disappointment because I think in totality we can understand that this Alabama team isn't what it once was. They definitely don't have the resume compared to some of these other teams. They did get a boost last night because they did beat South Carolina, who then beat Texas A&M. But holistically, I think the Georgia trump card it's starting to look worse and worse. Like at one point it was like, okay, you beat Georgia, you're up here, but now it's slowly turning into a less impressive win. And I just think that from the perspective of these fans and the people who are used to being, okay, we know whenever the polls come out, we're going to be number 1, number 2, top 4, somewhere in there. Well, now these fans are going to be at the edge of their seat waiting to get like a 12th spot or 11th spot. So Alabama's really on the outside looking in, and it's uncharted waters for for this team and this program. So I think they'll be left out of that top 12 ranking, but obviously there's a lot of things that can happen. They have more than enough time. I mean, if they win in Death Valley, I think that gives them a chance to climb their way back in. There's ample opportunity, and again, this is just based on what the rankings are going to be. This is not a prediction. I'm not saying that Alabama should not be in the playoffs. I just think what we're going to see Tuesday, I think Alabama fans are going to be on the edge of their seat and just a little unhappy.
Well, we'll do a snake draft, Damien. Who's going to be the most pleased on Tuesday night?
Most pleased, it's got to be Texas. It has to be because somehow they have not, with them not looking as good as they have in the past couple of weeks. I mean, barely escaping against Vandy. We saw what happened against Georgia. I mean, their top win right now is Michigan, who is down and beaten and hasn't been anything like what we expected. And they're still in everybody's rankings around 5, 6, 7, like somewhere in that range. I'm not confident that they are a top 6 or 7 team. So if you do end up there, Texas fans, you got to be happy because quite honestly, I would have Texas around top 10 maybe. 9, something like that. But if you're Texas fans in Austin, you definitely have to be happy with the fact that Texas is, at least I think Texas is going to be pretty high in these rankings.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, the conversation around it, because when we were talking about a top 4 and you're trying to get reasons why a team shouldn't be in the top 4, you're going to be looking a long time. But the reality is when we're making a top 12, these teams are showing a lot of flaws when you're going to the 12 teams. And so if you don't want a team in the top 12, like there's going to be a lot of reasons to not put them in. But the reality is there's got to be 12 teams in the bracket, and there's going to be a lot of teams that people have a lot of gripes with, and they'd be reasonable gripes. And the committee's got to sort through some of that they've never had to do before. For me, I think Indiana. I think there's a lot of talk about Indiana's schedule, and I think people forget that the committee does respect teams who beat the heck out of teams, and that's what Indiana does. And I get that they don't have the win to write home about, and their schedule strength is not strong, but I think the committee will respect, one, they play very physical. They don't allow teams to run the ball. The committee really wants to see balanced teams, which I kind of think that's kind of nonsense, but they've said that before, and I think they'll hold to some of those precedents. And I think this is a team that again has earned a lot of respect because of how they've won games. Average margin of victory, 28.7 points. They've won every game by at least 14 points. They trailed for the first time all season in East Lansing, down 10-0 to Michigan State. And then, oh, ho-hum, they scored the next 47 points in the game and won. So I think Indiana, people are taking shots at their schedule and overlooking how dominant they've been. I think they'll be higher than people think. Chris, who do you have on here?
See, I actually think Indiana's going to be lower. They have played one team that's even getting votes in the top 25 poll, and when you see that, when you kind of go through the mock committee, we'll see. Fan base, I think, will be pleased. I think it's going to be Notre Dame, who didn't play this week. They've kind of been out of sight, out of mind for a lot of fans. They're 10th in the AP poll, but I think you could see them a bit higher. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, people are going to freak out about Notre Dame and realize Notre Dame's got a clear path into the playoff now with a weak schedule. And
easy.
Get ready for that. Now, they do play Army pretty soon here at Yankee Stadium. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I think Notre Dame fans will be pleased where they are, in part because everybody else will be mad where Notre Dame is.